My friend, the moment you've been praying for, working for, preparing for in silence, it begins now. Heaven is not confused. The delay was not denial. The wait was not wasted. God said, buckle up, because what's coming doesn't arrive gently. It arrives suddenly. You were not built for the sidelines. You were born to command the field of your destiny. That hunger you feel deep inside isn't anxiety. It's alignment. It's your spirit being pulled toward purpose by a force greater than your fears. And now that force says, move. This is not the time for second guessing. This is not the season to shrink. The divine order of success always demands a definite decision, and today that decision must be bold, unwavering, and immediate. You've waited long enough. You've cried long enough. You've rehearsed the vision in your mind over and over until it became a second heartbeat. Now it's time to give it breath. Understand this. Faith is not sitting still hoping for miracles. Faith is the ignition of motion before the road is even paved. You must act as if the thing you've been praying for already belongs to you, because spiritually it does. God never gives a command without providing provision. When he says buckle up, he means he's shifting the speed. You're not entering chaos, you're entering acceleration. Every disappointment was developing your endurance. Every rejection was refining your direction. Every delay was deepening your discipline. Don't despise the process. It was God's classroom. Now the test has arrived, and you will pass, not because of luck, not because of ease, but because you have prepared yourself with vision, faith, and unrelenting persistence. This is your launch. This is your rise. And this is your divine permission to go all in. Don't whisper your purpose. Declare it. Don't tiptoe into destiny. Charge it. You're not waiting anymore. You're walking in it. And when they ask what changed, when they ask what lit the fire in you, tell them simply, God said, buckle up. Everything I've been waiting for is starting right now. There comes a moment in every person's life when something deep within begins to stir, a signal, subtle at first, but unmistakable in its pull. It's not noise, it's not confusion, it's the voice of destiny beginning to call. That voice does not shout, but it resonates in the bones. It speaks in quiet moments, in restless nights, in the fire behind your eyes when everyone else sees calm. It is the sound of purpose, waiting for recognition, waiting to be activated. And when the call comes, it does not beg, it commands. You are not born without cause. You are not here by chance. Everything in your life, every victory, every setback, every invisible struggle was part of a great orchestration. And now the conductor is lifting the baton, signaling that your part in the symphony must be played with full force. That call you feel is not ambition. It is not desperation. It is a divine summons to live intentionally, with clarity, with mission, and with fire. The wait is over. The wandering ends. The fog is lifting because the signal has been given. The moment your purpose is truly known is the moment everything else in your life must bow to it. Purpose is not an option. It is not a luxury reserved for the gifted or the lucky. It is a necessity for the soul. Without it, even comfort becomes suffocating. Without it, even success tastes hollow. Purpose is oxygen to the spirit. And when it is activated, it becomes the lens through which all decisions are made. No longer are you driven by reaction, by fear, or by opinion. You are driven by the deep knowing that your life has been designed with sacred intent. When purpose is activated, clarity comes. The clutter of doubt starts to dissolve. You begin to move, not because the path is fully lit, but because you trust that the one who lit the spark within you will guide each step. You no longer need a guarantee. You just need direction. And direction, once aligned with divine purpose, becomes unstoppable. The mountains you once feared begin to shrink. The opinions you once obeyed lose their grip. What once felt like obstacles now feel like instructions. Every delay becomes a signal to prepare, not to panic. Every detour becomes a lesson, not a loss. This is the power of activated purpose. It turns ordinary people into agents of transformation. It takes someone overlooked, forgotten, misunderstood, and sets their life on fire. Not fire that burns them down, but fire that refines, fuels, and illuminates. A person with purpose walks differently. They speak with weight. Their words carry voltage. They are no longer trying to be liked. because they understand they were born to lead. They are no longer chasing the applause because they have already heard the call. Purpose has become their compass, and it cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. It must be discovered, and once discovered, it must be obeyed. There is no more time to negotiate with your calling. There is no more room to pretend you don't feel it. The longer you delay, the more you drift, and drifting is the enemy of destiny. Drifting allows good people to die with their greatness locked inside them. Drifting keeps powerful voices silent and world-changing ideas buried. But purpose, when it is truly activated, demands movement. It demands a plan. It demands that you wake up differently, show up differently, think, speak, and act from the truth of who you really are. This is not a fantasy. This is a spiritual principle. That which is given to you by divine design will not let you sleep forever. That purpose will knock until you rise. It will interrupt your comfort. It will disturb your routine. It will ask you to release every excuse you've made and every limitation you've accepted, because it knows what's buried inside of you. It knows what you've been hiding from, and it refuses to let you settle for safety when greatness is your assignment. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. You don't need the world's approval. You need your own commitment. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a made-up mind. A life lived without purpose is survival, but a life led by purpose is significance. And the world doesn't need more people surviving. The world needs more people awake, alive, activated. Your time is not coming. It is here. The call is not future tense. It is present. This is not rehearsal. This is the real thing. And the signal has been sent. So rise, move, answer, build, speak, step, create. You've waited long enough for a green light, but the truth is, the light turned green the moment you realized your purpose was not a dream. It was a demand. Everything in your life now must align with that higher calling. No more hesitation, no more delay, no more looking back or playing small. The moment has come. The divine assignment has been activated. You feel it. You know it. And now it requires everything from you, everything in you, everything you were created to become, because this is not the beginning of the end or the end of the wait or the closing of a chapter, but rather the opening of a door that leads directly into the fire of your divine assignment, and it starts not later, not soon, not someday, but there is a force more powerful than logic, more essential than education, more necessary than any tool crafted by human hands. That force is faith, not the passive kind often mistaken for optimism, not the quiet hope that things might work out if luck leans your way, but the fierce, unwavering conviction that what you cannot see is more real than what is in front of your eyes. This kind of faith moves mountains not because it wishes to, but because it knows it must. It is not a whisper, it is an engine. Faith does not wait for the road to be clear before it begins the journey. Faith lays down the road as it moves. It is the fuel behind every great achievement. Without it, talent hesitates. Without it, intelligence stalls. Without it, plans collapse. But with it, even the smallest step becomes the beginning of transformation. Faith is what separates dreamers from doers. It is what turns ordinary men and women into unstoppable forces of purpose. It does not ask for comfort. It asks for obedience. When faith is the engine, you move even when there is no sign. You build even when there is no blueprint. You speak even when no one is listening. You go forward not because you see the outcome, but because you believe in the origin. That belief, that deep inner certainty, becomes the very power that pushes you forward. Not once, not twice, but again and again when others stop, when fear screams, when logic runs dry, when evidence says no and the world says wait, faith is what says now. There will be moments when everything in your environment contradicts your vision. Your bank account will say no. Your body may feel tired. Your relationships might not understand. The world may offer silence. But when faith is your engine, none of that stops you. You move because the vision planted inside you is louder than the noise outside of you. You act because something eternal is pushing through your mortal hands. You continue because deep down you know that what you're building is not just for you. It's for everyone who will come after you. Faith doesn't just move your feet. It moves your legacy. It's easy to act when the way is paved and the signs all point forward. But that's not faith. That's convenience. Faith shows up in the unknown. Faith kicks in when resources are low, when answers are few, and when doubt tries to bargain with your destiny. Faith does not consult circumstances before it speaks. It declares, it commands, it initiates. Faith is not the soft voice of comfort. It is the roar of purpose breaking through delay. You cannot fake faith. You cannot borrow it. You cannot buy it. It must be forged, in fire, in solitude, in pressure. It is shaped when your plans fail, but you keep going. It is built when people walk away, but you stay the course. It is strengthened every time you act without proof, every time you sow without seeing the harvest, every time you show up when no one is clapping. Faith is not fragile. It is fierce. It is deliberate. It is power under control. And when it becomes your engine, your entire life begins to change. Your words carry weight. Your decisions carry intention. Your presence carries atmosphere. You are no longer led by fear, by trends, or by external approval. You are led by that inner knowing, that alignment with something higher. You are led by the unshakable belief that your steps are ordered, that your gifts are sacred, that your timing is divine, and that your mission will not return void. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to bow to it. Faith rises even when the knees tremble. Faith walks even when the ground shakes. Faith speaks even when the voice cracks, because faith knows that power comes in motion. Miracles don't find you standing still. They meet you mid-stride. The promise doesn't wait at the starting line. It meets you somewhere between obedience and exhaustion, between discipline and desire, between your current capacity and your eternal calling. The world teaches that you need to see to believe, but faith demands that you believe, and only then will you see. It's not a concept, it's a code. The code of creators, visionaries, world shifters. It's what has carried revolutions, birthed movements, raised the broken, and launched the impossible. The ones who walk by faith will always look foolish to those who wait for proof. But in the end, it's the ones who dared to move without the map who changed the world. The map comes after. The evidence shows up later. The applause comes long after the action. But faith acts first. So when the road is quiet and the answers aren't clear, when the support is missing and the results are delayed, you do not sit down. You do not back up. You do not retreat. You engage your engine. You plant your feet. You lift your head. You speak your goal. You take the step. And you do it all, not because you know exactly how it ends, but because you trust the one who gave you the vision in the first place, and you understand that the engine under your spirit is not powered by sight, by evidence, or by human validation, but by the unshakable force called faith that cannot be silenced, cannot be reasoned with, and cannot be stopped because it is no longer waiting for the door to open, but already charging through it with fire in the eyes and a decree in the soul that declares not someday, not maybe, not when it's easy, but every setback you faced, every heartbreak you endured, every storm that shook your foundation was not random, was not punishment, was not failure. It was preparation. It didn't feel like it when you were in it. It felt like breaking. It felt like silence from heaven. It felt like being buried in the very ground you thought you were meant to rise above. But the truth is, you were not being buried. You were being planted. And everything that tried to break you was actually building you. Pain has a purpose when it is passed through the filter of faith. Every time life pushed you to your knees, you were being taught how to rise stronger. Every time doors closed in your face, you were being trained not to depend on man for access. Every time people walked away, you were learning that your source is never tied to who stays. Your source is divine, unlimited, and unshaken by human inconsistency. You were never alone, even when it felt like no one understood, because the adversity that you faced was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to develop what could not be taught in comfort. Greatness does not emerge from ease. It is forged in pressure. The type of strength you're walking in now was not learned in a classroom. It was learned in the moments you wanted to give up but didn't. It was built in the nights you cried in silence but woke up anyway. It was developed in the times you were overlooked, underpaid, underestimated, and still chose to keep moving. That was preparation. That was divine training. That was heaven proving to you that your worth is not dependent on how things look. It's dependent on what you carry within. Preparation always disguises itself as pain. And if you judge the process too early, you'll call something broken that was actually being built. The pressure didn't come to crush you. It came to strip away everything that was not aligned with your next level. That disappointment, that rejection, that moment when you were sure you missed your window, that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your refinement. Because gold must be purified by fire, and destiny must be purified by adversity. You needed to be dropped so you could discover you would bounce. You needed the silence so you would learn to hear the still, small voice. You needed the rejection so you would stop trying to fit into places you were never meant to belong. You needed the confusion so you would learn to trust not what you see, but what you believe. You needed the loss so you could make room for legacy. You needed the trial so you could testify. The pain was not pointless, it was precise. The truth is, some lessons can only be learned on the battlefield. Some growth can only come from wrestling with angels and walking away with a limp. Some strength can only emerge after you've been stripped of every crutch and found out that your foundation is not a feeling, it is faith. You thought the season was killing you, but it was equipping you. You thought it was a delay, but it was divine alignment. You thought it was punishment, but it was preparation for platforms your former mindset would have sabotaged. Adversity introduces you to the version of yourself that success never would. It forces you to dig deeper. It wakes up the dormant parts of you. It challenges what you believe. It burns off the fluff. It sharpens your focus. It demands your decision. And it reveals your resilience. Not because you always feel strong, but because you keep showing up even when you don't. That's how champions are made. Not in the highlight reel, but in the shadows. Not in the applause, but in the silence. Not when everything is going right, but when nothing is going right, and you still choose to believe something greater is working behind the scenes. You are not weak because you had to fight. You are strong because you didn't surrender. You are not broken because it hurt. You are powerful because you let it teach you instead of define you. And now that you are standing on the other side of what you thought would break you, you can finally see it for what it was. Not a wall, but a womb. Not a grave, but a garden. Not an ending, but a forming. Everything you cried about, everything you questioned, everything you wrestled with, it was shaping the exact strength, character, and clarity you need for what's coming next. Now you walk differently. Not because you're bitter, but because you're built. Now you speak with conviction, not because you read it in a book, but because you lived it through blood and bruises and breathless moments of surrender. Now you lead not from theory, but from testimony, and you no longer need validation because your experience became your certification. You know what it took. You know what it cost. And you understand that nothing was wasted, nothing was random, nothing was accidental, because every part of your path was part of your preparation, and even when you couldn't see. The point of it, even when you questioned why, even when you begged for it to end, something in you kept breathing, kept believing, kept showing up, and now here you are standing, in the fire that was meant to consume you, but instead has revealed the unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable strength that was in you all along, because everything that came against, you came with a purpose, and everything that tried to delay you was part of the training, and everything you survived is now part of the power you carry forward into the place you were always meant to reach, and the person you were always meant to become, and the purpose you were born to fulfill, not later, not if not when, but there is a rhythm to the universe that no man can control and no mind can manipulate. It is not ruled by clocks or calendars, not bound by schedules or deadlines. It is the law of cosmic timing, the divine order that governs when doors open, when seasons shift, when purpose matures, and when destiny manifests. You may plan your path, strategize your next step, and declare your desires with clarity. But unless those plans are in harmony with the divine timeline, they will remain still. Because success is not just about motion, it is about alignment. The universe is never late, and it is never early. It moves in perfect synchronization with your preparation, your faith, and your obedience. What feels like delay is often divine protection. What feels like silence is sacred incubation. What feels like denial is only the reshaping of your character so you can sustain what is coming. The wait is not punishment. It is the workshop of purpose. It is where ego dies and vision sharpens. It is where dependence shifts from human timelines to eternal orchestration. And though you may not see the clock, you must trust the calendar of heaven. There is a time for sowing. There is a time for watering. And yes, there is a time for harvest. But the harvest never arrives when the seed is still immature. The law of cosmic timing ensures that what is meant for you will not arrive underdeveloped. If the thing you are praying for came prematurely, it would crush you. So the delay is not a denial, it is preparation. It is the unseen hand of divine intelligence orchestrating circumstances, people, and events to position everything in its rightful place at the appointed moment. Trying to force destiny outside of its timing is like pulling fruit from the tree before it ripens. It will not taste right, it will not nourish, it will not last. But when you wait, not with frustration but with faith, something shifts. You begin to see time not as your enemy but as your ally. You begin to recognize the sacred pauses. You begin to honor the detours. You begin to trust that the same force that gave you the vision also controls the clock. And when that awareness sinks into your spirit, anxiety gives way to assurance. You were not designed to chase. You were designed to align. Alignment means moving when you are prompted, resting when you are instructed, preparing in the silence, and acting with boldness when the moment is revealed. The law of cosmic timing is not passive. It is precise. It does not reward hurry. It honors faithfulness. It responds to your inner agreement with divine rhythm. And until your spirit says yes to the pace of your purpose, you will continue to experience friction. Not because you're failing, but because you're rushing. The divine does not operate in panic. The divine operates in principle. And one of those principles is this: what is destined for you cannot miss you, but you can miss it by moving out of sync. You can abort your own breakthrough by forcing something that isn't ready. You can delay your own elevation by grasping instead of growing. But if you choose instead to prepare, to mature, to stay faithful in the shadows, the light will find you at the right time, in the right place, in the right way. Patience is not weakness. Patience is power under submission. It is trusting a timeline greater than your understanding. It is walking with confidence even when nothing around you looks like the promise. It is building in silence, showing up without applause, staying rooted when the wind howls, and declaring with every action that your faith is not based on evidence. It's based on revelation. Because when your timing aligns with divine timing, acceleration happens. What took others 10 years takes you 10 months. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Doors open without knocking. Connections find you without chasing. Opportunities appear without explanation, because when it's your time, it's your time. This law cannot be manipulated, it cannot be fast-tracked, but it can be honored, it can be partnered with, it can be trusted. And when you do, you enter into a flow that no man can block. You begin to feel guided rather than grinding. You begin to sense when to act and when to wait. You no longer panic when things stall because you understand they're not stalling, they're aligning. And you stop comparing your path to someone else's because you realize you are not late, you are not behind, you are not forgotten. You are right on schedule for your assignment. You cannot be anxious and aligned at the same time. One must bow. Either you surrender to the law of cosmic timing or you exhaust yourself trying to fight it. And the truth is, everything you are meant to become, everything you are meant to do, every room you are meant to enter, every platform you are meant to speak from, every blessing, with your name etched into it, is already in motion, not according to your pace, but according to divine order. So prepare with expectation, move with intention, speak with faith, live with discipline, and trust that when the time is right, the pieces will fit, the people will appear, the path will clear, and you will walk into everything you were created for, not with striving, not with stress, not with desperation, but You don't need more signs. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another dream, another message, another voice telling you what you already know in your spirit. The instruction has already been given. The calling has already been placed. The vision has already been shown. What's missing is not clarity. What's missing is obedience. And obedience doesn't speak, it moves. Obedience doesn't hesitate, it acts. Action is not just effort, it is sacred. Action is obedience. There are moments when the greatest display of faith is not in what you say, but in what you do. Words are easy. Declarations are safe. But it's what you build, where you walk, what you confront, and how you move that reveals who you really believe. You can pray for the door to open, but obedience demands you knock. You can speak the promise, but obedience starts packing. You can quote the purpose, but obedience puts your hands to the plow. Because faith without movement is decoration. It may sound spiritual, but until you act, you haven't submitted. Obedience is not just following commands. It's honoring the assignment with your footsteps. It's showing that what you received in the quiet place is real enough to shape your daily decisions. That idea you carry isn't random. That vision burning in your chest isn't by accident. That strategy you were shown wasn't given for your entertainment. It was given for your execution. And you will not see the fulfillment of what you've been promised if you do not move like it's already real. Waiting can become a disguise for disobedience. You say you're waiting on the right time. You say you're waiting on peace. You say you're waiting on more resources, more connections, more understanding. But sometimes the truth is, you're not waiting on God. He's waiting on you. The command was already issued. The path was already lit. But fear wrapped itself in logic and disguised itself as wisdom. But obedience doesn't always feel safe. It feels right. And right doesn't mean comfortable. It means aligned. Action is obedience when it comes from that deep inner yes. It's not driven by pressure. It's not fueled by applause. It's not motivated by outcome. It's moved by conviction. When your soul knows what must be done, your only true response is obedience. And the longer you delay, the heavier the burden becomes, because obedience delayed is still disobedience. The peace you're searching for won't come through more information. It will come through implementation. The clarity you want won't come while sitting still. It will come mid-stride. The resources you're looking for won't come in advance. They will come as you go, because the provision follows the purpose, not the other way around. You weren't asked to understand everything. You were asked to trust. You weren't asked to have it all figured out. You were asked to begin. Obedience is often simple, but never small. That conversation you keep avoiding, that leap you keep postponing, that chapter you know you're supposed to write, that business you know you're meant to launch, that calling you've been sensing for years, those are not ideas. They are instructions. And your peace will not be found in the avoidance. It will be found in the execution. It takes courage to obey when the outcome is uncertain. It takes maturity to act without validation. It takes faith to keep going without evidence. But that is the nature of true obedience. It moves before the reward. It walks before the applause. It invests before the return. It sows before the harvest. And the ones who live in the fullness of their purpose are not the ones who waited for perfect conditions. They are the ones who obeyed when everything around them said, wait. Action is a demonstration of trust. When you act, you tell heaven you're ready. When you act, you show your belief is bigger than your fear. When you act, you activate unseen support. When you act, you break stagnation, silence doubt, and awaken the future that was waiting for your yes. Because every purpose is voice-activated, but its destiny fulfilled only when you put your feet to the ground. The anointing flows through action. The blessing flows through movement. The favor flows through obedience. Every time you obey, you align your life with divine order. Every time you obey, you shorten the distance between vision and reality. Every time you obey, you become more of who you were created to be. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be faithful. You don't need to see the whole picture. You just need to move on the piece you've been given. You don't need the crowd. You just need courage. Because obedience does not guarantee ease. It guarantees alignment. And alignment is what positions you for acceleration, for protection, for multiplication, for divine fulfillment of everything written about you in eternity long before time began. There is something only you can build. There is a problem only you were sent to solve. There is a generation waiting on what you carry. And heaven is not moved by your potential. It's moved by your obedience. Don't let the fear of what might go wrong keep you from the breakthrough of what will go right when you simply act. Act even if your voice shakes. Act even if the support is missing. Act even if the plan is incomplete. Act even if your hands tremble.